Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, a discussion on the madness going on at the Clark County School District with Brian Wachter and former State Senator Patricia Farley, here for the whole show on the all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Nevada Newsmakers Studio is located at the headquarters of the Nevada Trucking Association. Motion and purpose are a truck's greatest virtue.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam
And
Shad.
back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're going to have a discussion today about what's going on with the Clark County School District, which, for those of you that don't know, is the 5th largest school district in the nation and is going through turmoil at this point in time. To discuss this, we have former State Senator Patricia Farley and Brian Wachter, Senior Vice President of Government and Public Affairs for the Retail Association of Nevada, both parents, both with kids in the system. Brian, set the stage for us, if you will, of what's been going on the last couple of months coming out of COVID or continuing in COVID, and then what's going on with the board and the superintendent.
You know, Sam, I think to start, we really have to look at before the 2020 election, when the board got 4 new members. Before that time, there was a very contentious board. A lot of these votes were 4-3, meaning board members, trustees could not agree on much when they got around to doing something. Then we have 4 new board members join the board in January of 21 this year. And so there is not a lot of experience on the board. When you couple that with what we are seeing with COVID and the unprecedented fact that we had to shut down school for a year, and all of the behavioral and issues that we have are all leading to a very volatile and quite frankly chaotic situation. And that really kind of came to a head multiple times this year when the Board of Trustees attempted to hold their superintendent accountable. They've had questions about whether or not to terminate the superintendent in the past, so this is not a new issue. But recently the board in October did vote to terminate the superintendent for convenience. There was no discussion about one of the reasons or the thought process or really any of the deliberations that the board may or may not have had. None of those came to light. A week later, the school board voted to overturn that decision and to reinstate the superintendent. In between those 2 votes, the superintendent sent a letter of demand to the school board of trustees asking for $600,000 to pay out the rest of his contacts through January of 23, and as well as $2 million for what he considered to be a hostile work environment. Now, the first time we heard about this hostile work environment was the day that the trustees voted to terminate the superintendent. There was a meeting that day, from what the public knows, where the superintendent charged that certain members of the board were creating a hostile work environment. That came up during the vote to reinstate the superintendent. And at that same meeting, the trustees moved ahead with a $100,000 expenditure to investigate a hostile working conditions at the Clark County School District. Now, it's very confusing. There's some discrepancy over what exactly is being investigated and by who, but that really sets the stage where we are at today, Sam, and the fact that on Thursday, we do not know who is going to be in charge of the Clark County School District.
Senator Farley, this sounds like complete insanity. If you were going to create a soap opera for television, this sounds like it would be a great topic. But when you have kids in the school system, it ain't so much fun, is it?
To me, I think reiterating what Brian said, this is tribal politics, I think, has gotten in the way at the school board. You got different factions. And on top of that, I think you have a lot of ego trying to steal the limelight and keep the attention of the media. And then you got the media that's feeding into it. I mean, we have members of the press that are live tweeting it, calling people racist and what side you're on and that side. And I think it's boiled up to the point that is really evident to every parent that the school board and the school district is not necessarily interested in teaching our children as much as they are the drama of their own machine. And I've got 4 children in school here in Clark County. My 6th grader is on her 4th math teacher. One of my 11th graders has substitute teachers, a lot of them. And the teachers are quitting right and left. I mean, it's starting to really just kind of come down, roll downhill and into the classroom, and it's a disaster. It's a disaster for our kids. It's a disaster for our communities.
Brian, with what all the kids have been through as far as COVID, this has to be a completely negative situation for them to cope with beyond COVID.
Well, I think Senator Farley is entirely correct. I mean, we've got this top-down approach where we just have this malaise and this apathy, I think, towards finding a solution. And so when that is down in the classroom level, you know, when we have teachers, when we have substitutes, I'm actually surprised Patricia Farley's kid has a math teacher after 4 going around. I'm surprised it's not a long-term sub. We've got teachers who are teaching math classes in between, you know, and our preps who are geography teachers, they're science teachers, they're not math teachers. There's a principal of a local middle school down here that is teaching a math class because she couldn't fill the spot. So she's a principal in the evening and a math teacher during the day. So the amount of support that our students and our teachers are getting, I think, is almost non-existent. And that has a lot to do with there is nowhere to turn because of the turmoil at the district level with the trustees and the superintendent. There's nowhere for that pressure to be relieved. And so it is just the self-contained atmosphere of negativity, like you said, Sam, of, I think, some hopelessness and some feeling that there isn't change coming. And that is all contributing to the fact that our kids are not getting the adequate education that they deserve.
Senator Farley, at this point, do we know if Jesus Jara is going to take the job now that his resignation has been rescinded? Or his firing? I shouldn't say resignation.
Really smart in self-protection to not let that secret out of the bag just yet. I think what has happened, whether you like him or not, the way this has happened has really put the ball in his court. And so I think when stuff like this happens, people forget here locally that it's an announcement to the nation, right? So terminating Jara for convenience after all this turmoil and so public puts him in a ripe situation to sue. And then these folks have to go out and hire somebody qualified after Jara. And who's going to take that job after watching this unfold publicly? And then you hear what's happening all the way down to the classroom level. I mean, the job has become too big. for one person and to hang that around one person's neck to carry that amount of responsibility. And so I think they've got themselves into quite a pickle, and I think the people paying for it are our children.
In previous situations, whether it was chancellors or presidents of universities or school superintendents, somebody said to me, it's like the Catholic priests during the crisis there, that we don't actually fire anybody, we just move them to another location. And isn't that why we're paying these people so much money, is because in every situation, it's going to be a short-term job.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we need somebody who, and more investment in the community. I mean, I voted for the reorganization of CCSD. After watching this, it really needs to be returned down to the community level, where the principals in the community are managing the schools, and less of this massively large bureaucratic body that becomes self-interested. And the fight literally between the unions and the parents and the media and the trustees and the political division. I don't see a solution other than to break it up and return it to the communities that they serve. Each school serves should be managed by that community.
Brian, do you agree?
No, I don't, Sam. I respectfully, of course, but I think that we have too many pockets in the community that would be greatly disadvantaged if you were to break up the school district. And I think, we've had this conversation, and I do appreciate, Senator Farley voting for the reorganization bill, but we have seen no follow through. And I will say this, we're just now seeing it from the Department of Ed at the state level, but we need to see no follow through to make sure that is actually implemented and actually working effectively. I sit on 3 of those school organizational teams, Sam, at 3 different levels in Clark County. They're all run differently. If you ask anybody else on an SOT team, they're going to tell you the same thing, that it is a lot up to discretion on the principal, or less community involvement than I think anyone who went through reorg thought there was going to be. And this is really putting things at a disadvantage, especially in, say, North Las Vegas, Sam, when you've got schools that struggle to get teachers, or they are taking a chance on new teachers. They are asked by the district to pay that same amount for a teacher as someone who is a 25-year teacher teaching maybe at Arbor View. And so that was something that was supposed to be addressed in reorg, was that schools were actually supposed to be charged what the cost of that teacher was, instead of the average, which is now $91,000, Sam. So there are many parts of the reorg that actually haven't come into fruition. And I think that's something that we really need to take a look at before we decide to break up the school district. But I did want to circle back. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was cutting you off. Please, Brian.
No, I wanted to circle back to this idea. I think what's lost in this discussion about the superintendent is really those accountability measures. The public didn't get to have a conversation. There wasn't a midterm review for the superintendent. And so all of the reasons, and I think there are valid criticisms against the superintendent, none of that seems to be the point, Sam. And so that further drives the point that this isn't about actions and consequences and about student performance. This is about these personalities and egos that Senator Farley rightly brought up.
Okay, Senator Farley.
I'm going to go back and say real quick, the reason why I still really stand for the reorganization, returning to communities, I don't think that the funding has to be equal from school district to school district to school district. I think that becomes a political question and an accountability question. But I don't think that Nevada has proven in 20 years that they're able to adequately educate our children. And so I don't think I'd return to the same source and ask for a different solution, because over the last 20 years, they have not been able to do it. So I think we have to really pull out of the box and start rethinking how we're educating our children.
Okay, Brian.
No, I enjoy that. I think there are a lot of things that we could be doing differently. And there are some positive benefits that we've seen from COVID. There was a massive amount of investment in education, both from the state and the federal level. The Clark County School District, saying the 5th largest school district in the country, is now 1-to-1 in terms of technology. Many of our schools are actually 2-to-1, giving the ability to have a device in the classroom and a device at home. There are ways to revolutionize how we teach students, and we finally have the tools to be able to do them. So I would agree with Patricia Farley that the box should be open. We should be looking at things. But I think to actually break up the school district is something that is going to have consequences for decades. And if we come to the conclusion that that's what's needed, that we actually need to break the system in order to make it work, then I think we take that step. But I don't think we're there yet, Sam. I think there are so many other options that we can have and ways to really think about how we do education that we haven't contemplated yet.
Okay, so throw out a couple.
Well, for instance, we've had this idea of a blended classroom, and COVID would have been actually perfect for this, where a teacher can actually assign the homework, the base notes, the lecture portion through an online video. So a student would go home that night, they would watch the lecture, they would take some notes, they would be prepared, then they could come back into class, and instead of listening to a teacher give that same lecture and take notes, they can devote those 60 or 70 minutes to actually working through student problems, getting through concepts and understanding it. And when you do that, Sam, you can open up that video, that lecture, to teachers that you don't have access to at your individual school, teachers that you don't have access to in your district, but a teacher that for some reason that student understands, reflects with, likes, and enjoys learning from. And I think that opens us up to being able to make sure that our teachers are reflective of our student diversity and that we are utilizing the best, most capable teachers that we have to help all of our students, as opposed to just hoping that we get a student lucky enough to be zoned for that school and get that teacher in math class. And so that would be one, Sam, that I think COVID really opened us up to. Unfortunately, the district fell down on that. They took the definition of blended classroom and made it completely different. We got bogged down into questions between asynchronous versus synchronous learning, and it wasn't productive. And instead of having that time to develop and what are we doing new, we are back to the exact same structure we were before. And that's a failure.
Okay, Senator Farley, you get the last word on this segment, and then we'll take a break.
No, I love what Brian is saying. The problem is I think that the system is so embedded in what works for the individual or the political person than it does for the kids. I just can't see them manifesting these types of solutions, which would ultimately return power to the schools and to the parents, right? They don't want that, in my opinion. What they want is the control and to grow the organization and the bureaucracy and the political clout and influence. I mean, that's good for the unions. It's good for those elected to the school board. It's not there. And as you heard Brian, here was this wonderful opportunity and this thing to learn from COVID, right? Which I completely agree that we should be doing things that, like Brian just described. It'll never happen. It'll go back to what's self-serving, the individual and the political parties that are supporting those agendas, not our kids. And at this point, I need my kids educated. I don't need any more tribalism, personality, egos, just trying to get attention from the media instead of trying to educate my kids.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back with much more on this topic, and it's fascinating after this timeout.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
Hey, Dad? What are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it.
Yes. Yes, they will.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Brian Wachter. He's the Senior Vice President of Government and Public Affairs for the Retail Association of Nevada, and former State Senator Patricia Farley, both parents, both with kids in the Clark County School District. And the Clark County School District is going through a most insane time. And Senator Farley, so, you know, because of what happened in the last session, we're going to see a significant amount of additional money coming in from the Mining Association, and then potentially, because of the Secretary of State's action, you could see money coming in from sales tax and gaming tax. Does this help or actually hurt?
So I think throwing money at any situation never helps. I think we do need to look at the areas that we're underpaying teachers, under reimbursement of schools, those types of things, right? But I don't think just throwing money at it is going to help this situation at all. We've done that. We did that in 15. We threw money at it, and we threw so much money at it that all the experts around said, this is enough money. We won't have to come back. This will allow us to do what we need to do for kids and teachers. And we did it. A lot of Republicans voted to fund our schools and raise our taxes, including me. And I was affected by the commerce tax. But I thought it was the right thing to do. And so I don't know, what is you look at school districts like New York who just continue to throw money at the problem, and they're still failing as well. So maybe we need to start looking at the leadership and the programs and start holding people and programs accountable, and not just constantly saying we need more money, because money's obviously not fixing the problem.
No, I agree. I think there were some things that money was the issue. I think curriculum, for one. There's a great new math curriculum that the district is rolling out. And that had been one of the concerns that we had heard from a lot of teachers, is that, you know, they were constantly creating their own lesson plans, their own activities. And so that, I think, is helpful. And those are certainly costly. But I really think, Sam, that if we're not spending money on new classrooms and the teachers that go in them, then we probably are wasting money a little bit. I mean, we do have class size problems in Clark County. We are very large in that realm. And so I think anything that we can do to increase the number of classrooms we have and the number of teachers we have is money well spent. I think anything beyond that is very questionable.
All right, let's take one more break and we'll be right back.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and Twitter. Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Events Center in Las Vegas. Host meetings and events on 2 floors. Stay in luxurious rooms and suites. Unlimited branding opportunities. Regional Italian cuisine by Chef Mark Segrisi. Flexible event spaces. Full buyout options. Visit ahernhotel.com today.
A record 2 million illegal immigrants. With them, drug runners, child smugglers, and gang members. A fearless conservative, John Lee knows every town is a border town.
We need to fix immigration, but nobody does a thing about it.
As governor, John Lee will end sanctuary counties in Nevada and stop illegal immigration at our borders. John Lee supports ending Biden's dangerous catch-and-release policy, blocking payouts to border crossers, and finishing President Trump's wall. Conservative John Lee for governor.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and YouTube. Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're talking about the Clark County School District, the 5th largest school district in the nation, and the turmoil that it's currently going through, with Brian Wachter, Senior Vice President of Government and Public Affairs for the Retail Association of Nevada, and former State Senator Patricia Farley. So here's the bombshell with, maybe 45 seconds apiece here, is, Brian, Las Vegas and Clark County is going to see tremendous growth over the next decade. You've got this problem here now. How do you even think of dealing with it long term?
Well, it's interesting, Sam, because right now we're seeing a decrease in the number of people who are enrolling in our public schools in Clark County. And I think that's, for a lot of different reasons, COVID, moving, certainly folks looking at other options. And I think that is what we are going to see if people don't start trusting and feeling like the Clark County School District is capable of educating their kids. And so if we don't solve that problem, I think our growth problem is going to solve itself. But if we are not constantly thinking about new schools, which we have bond, money and questions for, we're going to put ourselves at a real disadvantage.
Senator Farley, you get the last 30 seconds here.
I completely agree. As a parent, I have one kid that I'm pulling out and doing the fast track program through Nevada State High School because she's taught primarily by long-term substitutes, and she reads a novel a week in school on her own will because she needs something to do. I have one that I put in private school. I'm looking at private school and charter schools as other options now for each kid because I'm just not finding it in the Clark County School District. And there's no reason my child's education should be put second, third, or 10th to politics, egos, and unions fighting over control.
And that's where we have to leave it. Thank you both so much. This is such a complex issue, and you've both done a great job of explaining at least a large portion of it, and we appreciate that. Thank you both, and we'll be right back.
Serving Our Kids Foundation's mission is to serve homeless, at-risk, and food-insecure children in grades K through 8 throughout Southern Nevada. During the pandemic, Serving Our Kids has seen a 42% increase in the number of children served, providing more than 4,500 meals to kids in over 100 schools weekly. Serving Our Kids is powered by community support and volunteers. To learn how you can help, visit servingourkids.org.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
The Do It Right guys at Nevada Heating have one mission. Your furnace breaks down today, we fix it today. Why freeze for days while your furnace is down when Nevada Heating can get the job done today and you can get warm again? For nearly 50 years, locally owned Nevada Heating has been getting the job done right. Call today at 323-5585 and we'll fix it today. That's 323-5585 or online at nevadaheating.com. The Do It Right guys at Nevada Heating have one mission. Your air conditioner breaks down today, we fix it today. Why sweat for days while your air is down when Nevada Heating can get the job done today and you can get cool again? For nearly 50 years, locally owned Nevada Heating has been getting the job done right. Call today at 323-5585 or see us online at nevadaheating.com.
Watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. You can do that now these days. We'll see you on the next broadcast.